Alright guys, such got me again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far with roster chaos continuing in the Call of Duty world. Questions being raised over what Los Angeles Thieves should consider doing if it is true the rumours that FaZe are potentially going to make changes maybe before, maybe after the Esports World Cup. What about Thieves? They placed even worse at the World Championship back in Kitchener, especially with Shotzzy revealing that of all the teams they were slamming bad in scrims going into the tournament, the worst of any in terms of that 250-16 result we talked about a while ago was none other than LA Thieves themselves, the pre-tournament favourites. What happened in that camp over the last few weeks? Where do we go from here? Very much on Twitter, your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. We'll just do one quick Rostermania piece because we've got plenty else to discuss as well. In the next video we do, we'll be diving into more detail, I'm sure, on further roster changes. This, though, is the rumour on TJ Halley. So we know that Ravens are blowing it up. Slasher seems set to stay. The rest of the team might be Slasher, Cobra, Afro, +1. Could be Beans, but I've got no sources there. It's just putting pieces together. Beans is off Toronto. Who knows what's going on over there? TJ gone as well. Gwinn gone to Cloud9. Rex completely, out of the league it seems for now. But where would TJ go if he's going to be gone? Contract is up. Apparently Falcons are stepping in. Now look, I imagine after the World Cup, Falcons might get the checkbook out and do something a little more serious. But for now, maybe Pred feels like it's kind of funny because TJ had Pred's number for a couple of years. And, obviously they're good boys or whatever. The idea of them teaming up together here, I guess it would put TJ onto the flex role. Maybe that's the way that it would go. Pred, Xnid on the SMGs, TJ on the flex. Maybe keep Arcetes as the main AR. But according to rumours, TJ's in, Priester is out for the Vegas Falcons. Will they do anything else? Is this a good change? It's a conversation to be had, but tweet your thoughts on that in the comment section below, because not one I would have seen coming, not gonna lie, after the World Championship. You'd have told me that, TJ would have ended up on Falcons, and I've said that's kind of come out of left field, and to be fair, I think it kind of has, but given what's changed over the last couple of days, maybe this makes a little bit of sense. We've got plenty else to talk about that's happened over the last couple of days. Hixie says happy birthday to Scrap, because it was Scrap's birthday yesterday, and on the same day as his birthday, Scrappy gets, exposed in a way, because Shotzzy says that he cooked them in scrims for the last month or so. We'll get to that in a second. These were the best KDs of the tournament. HyDra actually was here at 8th with a 1.14. Shotzzy, Rencor, Dashy, Mercules, Gwinn, Super Cellium, HyDra, Rael and Huke. That was your top 10 of the tournament. Pretty impressive that even though Huke, it's not like he was dropping 1.2s in the grand finals, but he had a 1.08 overall, meant that the entire OpTic team made the top 10 for KDs at the event, which is nonetheless impressive. Now, there was some drama over the last couple of days around the World Cup. The World Cup is coming up very shortly. Here's Cristiano Ronaldo saying apparently he's challenging the 2,000 athletes of the EWC to rise above. When the legend calls, you answer. And they also, I think, dropped the Drazah episode of the documentary on Amazon Prime. Not got the chance to watch this yet, but I certainly will be doing when I get the chance, because it seems like they've focused here on Drazah a fair bit. Thought this is actually really cool. I'm hoping they did a good job of it. It certainly seems like they did from the trailer. But the question is, with the World Cup on the horizon, okay, how much does it count? This continues to be a big question. I will say the community on this is very split in terms of how much it counts. Nobody who is sane is going to tell you it counts more than Champs. Champs is obviously the big event. Scrappy made that very clear when they lost. He was, we can even probably just go back and find the tweet real quick where Scrappy had to say, no words, nothing else to say about how he played. This is the tournament that mattered. There's still EWC, but nothing will feel the same as winning Champs. So it's very clear, everyone agrees, yeah, the World Cup, it's a big tournament, there's lots of money on the line. But is it Champs? No. Will it ever be Champs? I don't know, come back to me in 10 years maybe. The World Cup, in my opinion, every year the Esports World Cup happens, its importance goes up to some degree. It carries more of a legacy. It's a more important tournament in the context of the esports world. I think the importance of EWC will slowly rise year on year over time, but it's probably never going to be COD Champs unless they combine, which I'm hoping never happens. But where does EWC sit? It's, it's more than a minor. At the end of the day, it's a LAN tournament for $1 million and a bit. It's way more money than a major. But where does it sit with respect to a major? Because it's a single elimination tournament, which, like, it's a tournament with more teams. There's 16 teams there. You've got some amateur teams as well. The format maybe isn't quite as good as you would have at a major with the full double elimination. But, you know, the winner is still a champion. It's a big deal. The World Cup is a big tournament and there's loads of money on the line. So I think I can see the argument either way. Some would say the World Cup counts more than a major. Some would say it counts less than a major. I think personally I would take winning the World Cup over winning a major tournament, but as we can see here from this Turtle Twitter poll, the community seems pretty split on what they think about it. So the question then came, and this was when the drama happened a couple of days ago now, when Jake Hell says, biases aside, which team had the best season? Now this is a good question, and it's a kind of complicated answer. In my opinion, the team with the best season is OpTic. They won champs. That team would always kind of have had the best season, even though they had a terrible rest of the year. My opinion is, were OpTic the best team this season? No. For example, let's take the Advanced Warfare season back in 2015. OpTic dominated most of that year. They won so many championships, but they didn't win the World Championship. Denial did. So, you know, which team had the best season? Obviously, even Denial, they changed their rosters after winning champs that year because it wasn't at the end of the year. But the point still stands that OpTic were the best team in Advanced Warfare, but they didn't win champs and they didn't necessarily have the best season, you could argue, given that they didn't win the big one, right? And maybe the same thing in Black Ops 3 as well. So just because you won champs doesn't mean you were necessarily the best team the whole year. Did OpTic reach the highest ceiling of anyone at the end of the year? Yes. But were Thieves better over the course of the season? Sure. So, you know, that debate on who was the best team, who had the best season, it's all very subjective. It depends on your opinion, really. FaZe, maybe you could make an outside argument for. But Nameless says this depends entirely on what happens at the Esports World Cup. Whoever, presumably, of these three teams wins the World Cup, in his opinion, would therefore have had the best season. And maybe that's justified. So Maven says, and this is where the drama happened because people say, oh, Maven, you used to be, you know, dick riding formal, now you just dick ride the FaZe guys. So I know that Maven gets this criticism a lot. And he says, OpTic fans downplayed champs' importance for a decade. The number of times I was told it was just another tournament when discussing a legacy like Scumps. Now a champs win is worth 45 major wins in 4 days, you know, replace a year of results. I just wish some fans would be happy for their incredible turnaround but still be rational humans. So it may have been criticising the OpTic fanbase there. I will say, on the Scump topic, okay, Scump has one ring, but the reason why Scump's rings are not, in my opinion, considered to quite the same degree is that every single year Scump went to champs, maybe with the exception of World War II. He was the best player on his team and one of the best players in the entire tournament. Scump, like, let's just be real, if you look at the numbers, got costed so many times at champs. Like, Scump was always playing his best stuff and was like God mode at the World Championship. The fact that he didn't win as many rings as some others did doesn't take away from that, right? Like, to me, what matters a lot when we talk about legacy is how did you perform at champs? Okay, how many rings you had, that's totally valid and a very good conversation. But Scump only had one ring, but for the 10 champs or so that he was there, he played lights out basically every single time he was at champs. And to me, that adds more value to Scump's one ring than players who won a ring but did nothing outside of that. So look, it's a debate. It's always going to be controversial, and I get it. There's always going to be a bit of recency bias. OpTic just won champs. Lots of the OpTic fans are going to, you know, see it in the sense of, oh, you know, champs matters more than the other tournaments, which of course it does. The question is, how much more does it matter? Let's say there was 10 majors a year. What's better, 10 majors or champs? You know, with 4 majors, I think all the teams would probably prefer to win champs rather than the 4 majors. If there's 10 majors, if there's 20 majors, you know what I'm saying? At some point, you know, have to have a bit of a conversation. Maven says, I love the OpTic players, the team is so likable, but Jesus Christ, a percentage of their fans make it so hard. It's going to be a tough year on socials. Going on to say, the fact is that aura that used to exist with champs isn't the same. It became a playoff with the CDL. It isn't what champs used to be, which is fair. It used to be 32 teams. Still the most important event. To discount an event that is basically for the same amount, though, is insane. Of course, talking about the World Cup and how much that matters. You know, prize money is one thing, but it's not everything. Maven says, I'm just seeing one side of it in my mentions due to the EWC. FaZe fans claim champs is just another tournament, etc, etc. So Maven responds to this and says, champs is the most important event. A team's overall performance from the entire title is so important. Both things can be true without trying to completely discredit either side. What OpTic did this year one of their storylines. Don't view my frustrations with extreme fan views as hate towards OpTic. Never has, never will be how I feel. My love for karma alone ensures. So just wanted to say that because there was a bit of drama on the Maven, Nameless, OpTic side, as you might expect. Just before we get to the Shotzzy Thieves stuff, Jake Hale talks about the schedule, the event location schedule for next year. He says that it's shaping up nicely as it stands. When we hear more rumours on where we might go, where the events might be, what the schedule looks like, we will obviously talk about it. For now, there aren't really any rumours. The only rumour really is DreamHack Stockholm, right? Ghost of Hope puts this together, which is his like hypothetical, almost dream scenario on having a minor every major cycle, having a tournament in New York, having one in, I mean, what does he say? One in Vancouver, one in Toronto, one in Dallas, and then champs hosted by Atlanta. Good luck with that. But the first event, he has a kickoff in Stockholm, which is where DreamHack happens at the end of November, which I think would be absolutely brilliant. So I don't know what it's going to be. I know that there's some hope still for a Chicago event, which I would love to see personally as well. Champs in London, probably doubtful, but who knows. So just to keep in mind, this is not an official graphic, but it's just a theory on what they might do for the upcoming year, but maybe an optimistic theory at that. But let's talk about the situation. OpTic won the World Championship. FaZe got smoked by them in the first round. Hot 3-0, dropped down to the losers bracket, took down a terrible Ravens team, and then got 3-0'd out of the tournament by Miami Heretics. Now, in hindsight, OpTic look back on this run and now they can speak about it publicly because they've not got to protect, their preparation for the World Championship. They were cooking over the last month or so. The talk about we're frying in scrims, that was very much real, and Shotzzy saying that just a few days before Champs did nothing to affect how well they performed at the tournament, because they did not lose a map to FaZe in scrims going into Champs. Now, of course, they didn't scrim FaZe very recently before Champs. They may have scrimmed FaZe 2-3 weeks before Champs, maybe once or twice, but going into Champs, of course, they were never going to scrim them in the 2 weeks leading up. They were instead scrimming Boston, Surge, Heretics, and Thieves, teams on the other side of the bracket. So this is when the story comes out from Shotzzy last night, talking about what happened with their record in the last month or so, how dominant they were, and revealing that the team that Huke mentioned on the podcast that they beat 250-16 was none other than the pre-tournament favourites, the Los Angeles Thieves. And he says they did it on Skyline. He goes on to say, Shotzzy, that, asked JP about it, and their record on Skyline in the last month, they played 31 maps of it in scrims. They won it 30 times. So Toronto, when they played them on it at the World Championship, they did not know what was coming for them on that map, and OpTic clearly did. They slam them in the 100-point club and roll through the rest of the tournament. But I think this says rather a lot about the way that OpTic performed and their massive turnaround, but also about Thieves, going from literally getting, winning the championship just a few weeks ago to getting bodied by scrims by OpTic in just a couple of weeks' time.
250-16, it was LA Thieves. But listen, bro, don't yo, wait, can you guys guess the map? Can you guys guess the map? It was Skyline. Bro, I'm not even trolling you. So wait, JP, are you in the stream or no? What is our Skyline record? Yo, everyone pre-video in Skyline against us. Bro, please tell me the Skyline record that we have, bro. 30-1 in the last month. Is that not fucking...
So what happened with Thieves to get them to this point, right? Shotzzy did talk about it, even on that podcast, and said that there were teams that they were scrimming that would basically give up by the third map. And I don't know whether he was talking about Thieves. It obviously could have been somebody else. But, you could imagine Thieves loading up to a scrim getting 16-point clubbed by OpTic on Skyline and just saying, chalk it up, boys, or whatever. That's crazy to think about. The level that Thieves were playing just a few weeks ago to win Major 4, then the scrims, whatever happened behind the scenes over the last couple of weeks, maybe they felt like they would be able to carry that momentum in as they'd done before, at least some of the players had done before when it was a shorter break, but OpTic capitalized dramatically. And, when they said that they'd 16-point club someone, I was thinking, okay, was it an amateur team? Was it maybe a Ravens, right? If they were scrimming them, was it a Boston maybe, right? Some of the weaker hardpoint teams in the tournament. But for it to be Thieves, one of the strongest hardpoint teams you know, maybe even of all time. Like in the CDL era this season, yeah, the Control was their best mode, but, you know, they were pretty devastating in the respawns this year, Thieves, in many regards. To put them in the 16-point club, you know, even to put them in the 100-point club or whatever, obviously it takes Thieves to get checked out to get only 16 points. But you know what I'm saying? That would have been a key element to let OpTic just gather huge momentum and gather super confidence going into the big one. So intrigued to your thoughts in a comment. Just finally to close out with this, the only reason why Simp wasn't the Burger King, and I mean, if you guys aren't aware, Lionman puts the lowest performing player of the stage or the tournament in a Burger King outfit, and this time it was Dylan Rex. Now, Simp had a 58 rated card, which was, I mean, surely his worst ever, and he was this close, a smidge away from being the Burger King, but Dylan Rex saved him. So yeah, Dylan Rex had a pretty horrific time, and he has a 55 overall. Gwinn, Tej, Slasher, difficult tournament for all of these guys. I mean, they won a single map of Search and Destroy, lost everything else. Tej to Falcons, Gwinn to Cloud9, and Slasher staying here, it seems to be the rumour. So very much interested to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.